Oh wow, this game comes with tools for audience retention. This video isn't a review of Astlibra Revision. This is a review of the game's first DLC, The Cave of Phantom Mist. This game is an anime-styled JRPG spectacle fighter roguelike. That's a mouthful. You travel deeper to the levels of the cave, battling increasingly stronger monsters with flashy attacks and magic. Gain resources to increase your attributes and craft better weapons and armor to traverse even deeper and fight even stronger enemies. The DLC takes place after the events of the main game, which is very heavy on storytelling, so if you think you might be playing in the original Astlibra Revision, I would recommend doing so before watching the story section near the end of this review to avoid any potential spoilers. Astlibra Gaiden Cave of the Phantom Cave is entirely 2D and has anime styling, and almost everything looks to be hand-drawn. Except for some of the background elements, they look like real pictures thrown in there. From what I can tell, many of the visual elements are from pre-existing assets. The telltale sign being some awkward edges randomly on walls and the ground where it should continue. This is a small complaint, and minor things like this are to be somewhat expected by solo developers. Some of the monster designs are fairly creative, like the rock elementals or the devils. At the beginning of the game, you'll be fighting basic slimes, and later you'll come across some monsters that are direct images of real creatures, like these giant turtles that look like real-world snapping turtles. Then there are some that I can't show on YouTube. The weapon and armor designs are my favorite part of the visuals. There are some really creative looking weapons, but you don't actually get to see what your armor looks like on your character, you'll only see the weapon and shield that you have equipped. Every area in Astlibra Phantom Cave of the Cave Mist has a unique soundtrack. The village is nice and calm, and then when you enter the caves, you get a new song for each stage. My favorite is definitely the rock and roll from the lava area. Some of the sound effects are good, and others leave a little bit to be desired. There's a lot of good audible feedback from using consumables and casting magic to know that your button inputs are received, and all the spells have appropriate and satisfying sound effects. The issue for me lies in the normal weapon attacks. Due to the nature of this being a spectacle fighter, your attacks will hit your enemies multiple times to ramp up the combo meter in the top right of the screen. The sound effect is the same for every single one, no matter what weapon you wield, and it got old pretty quickly for me. Another minor complaint is whenever your character gets hit by an attack, the sound she makes is almost inappropriate. Like, imagine you're playing this game in your room with no headphones and your parents walk by your bedroom door and hear the sounds coming from the TV. They'd probably open the door like, "Young man, what are you doing in there?" As I mentioned before, Astlibra Revision Gaiden Mist of the Cave Phantom is a roguelike, unlike the linear, story-driven RPG of the original game. You start out as the shy baker's daughter, and the first time you enter the cave, you're armed with nothing but a broom. To progress in the cave, you'll need to find a lever to open the way to the next level, and some of these levels will have multiple rooms and you'll have to look around in each room until you find the switch to open the way. It's always worth checking out these rooms even if you've already found said lever, because you may stumble upon a room that will give you resources or treasures. It's also worth trying to fight monsters to level up, as your level will reset whenever you leave the dungeon. You can reach a maximum level of 10, and the only difference I really noticed was that you get more health the higher level that you are. In typical RPG fashion, you'll find and craft better equipment as the game goes on. You have slots for a weapon, shield, armor, and 2 accessory slots. Some weapons are two-handed and won't allow you to wield a shield. Personally, I used a sword and shield for the entire game. I tried two-handed weapons, but to me they're too slow and they lack the defensive option. While wielding a shield, hold the down button to block damage. While doing this, you can press the attack button to do a dash forward and shield bash to enemies. While blocking, a small meter will appear and each attack will deplete this meter, but while it is up you will block all incoming damage. Better shields will withstand more damage before fully depleting. And some accessories offer passive bonuses like stat increases or damage resistances. Other than experience, monsters will also drop things called pollen, that takes the form of several different colors. You can use this kind of currency to upgrade your attributes in the grow menu while you're outside of the dungeon. The upgrades sprawl through a vast upgrade tree and they require pollen of different colors to unlock. If you don't have enough of a particular color for an upgrade, you can exchange your largest amount of pollen at a rate of 3 to 1, so you're not completely locked out of that upgrade that you want if you have enough pollen of other colors. Pollen is pretty plentiful as you get it from not only killing monsters but from using magic. Each magic attack has a type of pollen that will generate upon hitting an enemy. Speaking of casting magic, you will unlock spells from the aforementioned grow menu to deal different kinds of attacks when you generate enough stamina. Stamina is indicated by the filling bar beneath your health bar and is generated with normal weapon attacks, encouraging the player to stay engaged in the combat. You also gain a brief moment of invincibility while casting. You can see a blue overshield effect over your character that can be used to dodge attacks of every kind, even the ones you normally couldn't outright dodge. This interesting mechanic really encourages the player to play much more aggressively instead of staying back, taking jabs whenever it's safe. Your stamina will deplete rapidly if you don't use it. Magic abilities range from attacks to defense to healing, so it's important to use them before you lose them. You'll also gain access to passive abilities such as a double jump, increased range damage, increased stamina generation, among many others by mastering weapons and armor. Mastery means you collect enough experience points while wielding a specific piece of equipment, and it will grant you a new passive ability. You can't have all of them at once, however. There is a resource called magic crystals. You equip these abilities and they take a certain number of crystals to do so, and at any time you can unequip them and get your crystals back to equip something else. This adds a whole additional layer of customization for your individual player experience. Magic crystals are very hard to come by, but it is possible to get more. Some are hidden in the village, and others you earn from the lottery machine in the little magical house you'll occasionally find inside the dungeon. This house spawns randomly, and you'll find lottery tickets in chests, either in the world or the ones that spawn from slain monsters. The lottery does hold other prizes than just magic crystals. You can even win additional accessory slots. This game also features the ability to enhance the equipment that you already have. So if you have a particular setup that you really like and haven't found something to completely outclass it yet, you can spend resources to theoretically bring this equipment to the end of the game. I imagine that would be pretty hard to do though. You're much more likely to find a better weapon by chance in the dungeon before you gain enough resources to do so. Other than the intended dungeon for you to adventure in, there is the Colosseum to fight optional bosses for rewards. I don't actually know for sure, but I have a feeling that these guys are Easter eggs from the original game. I was only asked to play and review the DLC, so I can't tell you for sure. Please let me know in the comments if this is the case. When you beat these bosses, you get some blue magic stones, very different from the green magic crystals. You spend these bad boys for additional bonuses to your attributes. Personally, I dumped almost every single one into my luck stat so that I could get better item and gold drops. It worked out pretty well for me. One time I got 3 weapons in the same room of a level and got a weapon that I used all the way to the end of the game without enhancing it once. Even after you finish this DLC, there is still more late game content. I didn't play it as I already invested well over 15 hours in this game alone and I want to move on to the next game for a review, but it's impressive the amount of gameplay and time that you can get out of this DLC alone. We're now trespassing into spoiler territory, so skip ahead to the conclusion to hear my final thoughts if you like. The story of Astlibra, the Phantom of Phantom, begins with the baker's daughter. She watches the guild members leave the town to go about whatever adventuring business they're doing, and suddenly the town gets attacked by monsters. With no one else to turn to, she wields her broom and dispatches the slimes. After that, some time goes by and the guild members are nowhere to be seen, so she travels to a nearby cave where they last headed off to, only to find out this place is emitting a magical mist that creates illusions to trap the guild members inside, presumably so demons can overrun the town with them out of the way. As the only person in town willing to step up, it is left to our nameless protagonist to rescue them. After much progress, many deaths, and several strange dreams, you learn that the town is a part of the illusion. The town has already been destroyed, everyone in it laid to waste, and the mist coming from the cave has everyone trapped in some kind of time loop. Traveling to the bottom of the cave, you're forced to face the guild champion who is disillusioned to think that you are a monster as well. This man is the wielder of the Scales of Fate, an extremely powerful artifact. After slaying him, you move on to fight a devil or god or whatever you want to call it to end the illusion. Though this does mean that your character, a part of the illusion, will disappear as well. That is until the scales, through the power of friendship, through the rule that gets explained as it happens, hears your heart's deepest desire and creates a parallel universe before the guild members enter the cave. After this, you go to shut down the cave for good so they can never enter it in the first place, thereby saving them and the town. The end. And by the end, I mean the end of the main story. Now you begin even more quests, which I chose not to do because, like I said, I already invested over 15 hours. But hey, extra content for those who want it. I'm a pretty big fan of roguelikes, so I had certain expectations when I started this game. Astlibra Mist of the Phantom Gaiden is a really different kind of roguelike as it leans heavily into storytelling. That's fine and all, but for me, the story wasn't doing much for me. It spends a lot of time telling its tale when I would have preferred to be fighting monsters. It is also a grind to get through. This isn't a game where if you're a good enough player, you can run it through on your first try. I'm a big fan of Dead Cells because in that game, your skill and ability is what determines how successful you are and how far you can go. You can make it to the end of the game in one run. Sure, you have to pick up a new weapon now and then, but it never halts the flow of the game. Astlibra, however, requires you to return to the village and spend resources to upgrade your skills and get stronger. Personally, as a player, I get much more satisfaction from seeing myself improve at the game instead of some numbers going up to determine how much health I have and how much damage that I can do. At several points in the game, you'll hit a roadblock where your stats are just too low to move forward. You potentially could try, but your health will be low, equipment and shield won't offer a lot of defense, and your weapon won't deal a whole lot of damage. So, if you play carefully, you could whittle away at enemies until you could progress, but that would be just as time consuming. Now, is there anything wrong with the game being designed this way? No, not at all. It just doesn't appeal as much to a player like me, but it might for someone else who prefers to see that number get bigger and see the skill tree fill out over time. So that's what I have to say on that. If this game seems interesting at all to you, I recommend giving it a try. The original was created by one person over the course of 15 years, and I'm not sure about the DLC, but judging by the release date, somewhere around 2 years. This is as indie as it gets, people. And that's all I have for this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.